What's up? How you doing? Here we are with Mrs. McConkey, and we're going to talk a little bit about something that had a big impact in my life when I was growing up. The $6 Million Man. So, way back when this came out, it came with a sticker, and the sticker looked like this image right here. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before at some point, but I was trying to figure out a place I could put it and make it last, because if I put it anywhere else it would have been torn down 3, 4, 5 years later. So I had to find a place where nobody would bother it, and I found a place underneath my chair. I think a jet going by. Underneath my chair, put it underneath the chair, a wooden chair from the old days, and it's still there to this day. So anyway, look at that. It had the bionic arm. You could roll back the skin and check out the technology. And I discovered this show purely by accident. I was visiting I don't know, can't really call him a friend, but it was an acquaintance of my father's who went in there, and I was sitting with him in the kitchen, and the wife, who was a heavy-set woman, she kept saying to me, "Why don't you go in that room?" And there was a room right next to the kitchen with the door shut. You could see the blue light coming underneath the door. And she goes, "My sons are in there," and I didn't know her sons, so I didn't feel like going in there. And she asked many times, within like a 10-minute time span. And her husband, who was a stick, very, very thin, they were opposites. He was a stick, she was, the trunk of the tree, a big tree. And so finally, she opens up the door, and she asks me again. At that point I said, okay, I'll go in there. I didn't want to, be extra rude. So there were 2 kids down there lying on the floor, and the TV was on the floor, and they turned around briefly and they waved at me, and then I sat behind them, and the $6 Million Man was on. And it was a scene where he was busting out of a barred window, bending it with his arm, and the second I saw that, it caught my attention. I was a little kid back then. That was fascinating to me. And after that, I became a big fan. I don't want to say I was the biggest fan in the world, but I was probably the biggest fan in my state and a few other states combined. So, it's a cool doll. It's still attached. This is a, what do they call these, an eye bar. So they'd give you one of these things, you would bend it. But look at that. And then it came here with the fan club, the action club, the Bionic Man Action Club, which I wrote a letter to in those days. And these are the directions. It's got to work bionic right arm. It tells you how to do all that. And it's all in here. You can unscrew the arm, which I never did, because if I did, it wouldn't go back on. But anyway, you could fill this out, send it in, and they would send you the sticker, a picture, which I got the picture. I had it on top of a little counter thing I had in my room, and it was framed, and I had it there, and every once in a while I would look over and see him, and it was signed Colonel Steve Austin, not Lee Majors. So that's still in there. In those days, all that stuff was free. You could write to Universal Studios, and they would respond with a picture of whoever you wanted. Now you have to pay. It's a fan club. I remember I used to get Tiger Beat, Teen Beat magazines, and they would have these addresses that you could write to, and they would send you a picture. So I remember I wrote to the Dukes of Hazzard. I wrote to Henry Winkler. I got a picture of the Fonz with the thumb up. And I got a picture of the Duke Boys with Catherine Bach. Everybody enjoyed her with the shorts on and everything. And I remember I hung it up on one of my walls right next to my desk. Would look at it every day. I would say, that's the Duke Boys. And I was fascinated with that show because I wanted to jump my car. And I mentioned this before also, that I thought when I got my driver's license I would get a car and jump it somewhere in the neighborhood. I didn't realize how dangerous it was to jump a car. until when I was in high school. I had a friend named Vinny, and he had, I think it was a Fiat, could have been a Peugeot, but I think it was a Fiat. It was a stick shift. It was a station wagon, a little one, and there was an area behind, well, near our school, and it had a dirt ramp, and he said, you want to go back there and jump the station wagon? I said, sure. So put the seatbelts on and everything, and we picked up speed, and we hit that dirt mound, and we lifted probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches off the ground. But when we landed, it was very violent. And then I reassessed my thinking about jumping a car, like, you know, a good height. So I realized that there's no way you can jump a car and keep using it after, and maybe you would get mangled up as well. Because I've watched the Dukes of Hazzard jumps on YouTube, you know, the ones that they have a collection of them, and you see the stuntman inside with the helmet, and he's really taking a beating. And the car too, the car never gets to jump twice. They always had to buy a new one. So I changed my mind on that, although I was a big bike jumper, but you know, bikes are light. But anyway, this show had a huge impact on me, and that's one guy that I wish to meet before he passes on. I came close, the closest, I'm not meeting him, but when we had our original refrigerator delivered, the guy that brought it here, he had a hard time, you know, it was a heavy, he had to lift it up, and he said to me that not too long ago, he said, I delivered one to Lee Majors, and we were joking about, why do you need us? He goes, you're bionic, and it was I go, that was hilarious. So that's as close as I have gotten to meeting him. I met somebody who met him. But that sticker underneath my chair still exists to this day, and it's going to exist until it falls off, or the chair gets stolen. But yeah, them Dukes fascinated me with the, you know, the driving. I thought that I'd get a car like that, but I wanted a GTO, 1967 manual transmission, 4-speed, black, jet black, shiny. And I thought I would be jumping that. Yeah, when you're a kid, you see that and you think it's, you know, doable, especially when they showed in slow motion. You think that the landing would be nice and soft. It's not. It's not. I did a 4 or 5 inch jump height-wise, and it was violent inside. I didn't appreciate the landing. And then I for a minute, I considered, I go, maybe if I go and get these hydraulic shocks or some kind of airplane shocks where it could absorb the landing. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. So that's it. You know, I changed my mind on that. But now the nights are longer, the days are shorter, which some people mind it. I don't mind it. You know, it gives you more of a night. You get to do more things, and you still have, you know, it's still not 7 yet, it's still not 8, where before it would be like 9 o'clock and the night's almost done and you're getting ready to go to bed. I don't go to bed at 9, but a lot of people, they go to bed at 11. Lights are on now. In the old days when I was a kid, I came home when the lights turned on. Now nobody goes anywhere, and by law you have to be 12 and over to be by yourself. They can't even leave you in the car by yourself if you're under 12. Some cop goes by and sees a kid in the car. I used to get left in the car all the time. Father would go get a gallon of milk, container of eggs, and a stick of butter, and he'd say, wait 1 minute, I'll be right back. He'd cross the street. Can't do that anymore. Now you have to be like 38 years old to be left alone. Different times. You know, kids today, they're not as independent as kids when I grew up. You know, so I see all the lights have turned on. The one near my house, the one further down, I see there. They look yellowish tonight. I always thought they were bright white. Maybe they changed the bulbs. So yeah, that's what happened. And funny thing, one of the kids that was in that room that night, when I first saw the $6 Million Man on television, I actually met him a few years ago as an adult, and I mentioned the story to him, and he vaguely remembered that. He vaguely remembered, I mean, he remembered the show, but he remembered me also being there. He goes, I have a recollection, he goes, but a very vague one. I go, to me, it's not vague at all. I remember that as if it was yesterday night. And I can't tell you the amount of times I yelled out from the back of the station wagon on a Sunday night, "What time is it?" And my father would say, "It's 7:40," and I would be like, "We gotta get home." And my father would be driving through the streets like Starsky and Hutch to try and get me home. And then we'd get home back up in the driveway. I'd run up the stairs, I'd go all the way to the second floor, and I'd turn on my Zenith television set, which was a black and white. It would take about a minute to heat up. In those days, it wasn't Instamatic. You had to wait for the television to warm up, and then you'd get a dot, and then it would expand immediately, like the Big Bang Theory. And then I'd watch it, which I hated that part of the television because I could miss the intro, and the intro for me every week was, you know, something I looked forward to. But that made my weekend. It was like a wrap. So then it would have the credits at the end with him in a still motion running, and I loved that image. I always said I'm going to grab that image and make a t-shirt out of it. But that whole ending thing was inspiring to me. So if Lee Majors or anybody who knows him sees this, maybe we could have a rendezvous for 10 minutes. You know, 10 minutes. You name the location. It doesn't have to be at my house. It could be at, you know, an outdoor venue, a mall, anything. Just 10 minutes. Talk, maybe take a photograph, and then I'm on my way, you're on your way. That's the end. All right. So that's it for now. Ciao.